Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, here to the Eastern Clash, where after 3 days of action to try and find who is the best teams out of the Eastern Hemisphere, we have now concluded it down to 2. Your reigning world champions, Gen.G, up against your reigning Eastern champions, Ballistix. And guys, Ballistix has had one of the most ridiculous runs throughout this series that I feel like we have gotten out of any tournament. And we have said that this is the group of heart, the group that it needs to be able to kind of develop and grow throughout this tournament. And I don't think anybody thought that they had it in them to make it to this point.
I mean, it seems they always find themselves in the grand final here at the Eastern Clash, right?
It's crazy, actually, because I feel like time after time we're just like, instill doubt into it. It's not going to happen. And then every time, Snitch, they just prove us all wrong.
Yeah, I mean, they keep making this miracle run, and they're here to do it again. I mean, they've made it all the way to the grand finals. They were down 1 game from elimination, and they've climbed tooth and nail all the way to here. And I think it's been a very impressive run.
Yeah, it's crazy what we have ended up getting out of Ballistix, but I feel like there is something we've got to be looking at on the other side of this fight and on this matchup, and that is the fact that Gen.G has made the run through the Eastern Clash undefeated, at least so far, kind of running that same track record that Dignitas was able to display for us at the Western Clash. And it feels like since the midseason brawl, with how tense that series was between Gen.G and Team Dignitas, that things have kind of been brewing for this epic match at BlizzCon, where we have now what is, again, the undefeated team in the Western scene for Team Dignitas. And now will Gen.G be able to secure that and kind of fulfill the prophecy that is brewing and being etched against the wall?
I've been talking to Sake, and he just came in and said straight up, this is going to be 3 games. We're not going to joke around here. We're going to clean this out without dropping a map. And as you said, it's them trying to pull a Dignitas here. And to be honest, if that happens, even if it doesn't happen, I'm already hyped for BlizzCon. And, I mean, you must be looking at those games and also be pretty much anticipating exactly that rematch.
I mean, well, technically, Gen.G is 6-1 in regular league play, whereas Team Dignitas are 7-0. So I think it's pretty clear which team is currently looking a lot stronger. But I mean, I am excited to see if they can.
Just remind me real quickly, who won the midseason brawl?
By like 7% on the core.
No, literally 1% on the core. But yeah, as you say, we can be excited to see if Gen.G can pull off the same miracle run, the 11-0. All they have to do is win 3 maps in a row, and I think they definitely have the skill to do it.
Yeah, and it's been amazing what we've gotten out of Gen.G and that kind of almost undefeated route throughout this entire series or tournament. But the biggest thing as well when looking at Ballistix, as we've said, that they have shown a ridiculous amount of heart today, sitting at that 1 game away from getting eliminated against Blossom, where Blossom was, again, finding themselves in a position to be the first team to break past that 4th and 3 threshold that we often see out of Korea.
It feels so that the crowd is behind Ballistix.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, when they went up against Blossom, I feel it was a bit of a mixed bag because Blossom was a huge fan favorite with all the picks that they brought into. But already at that point, we had a huge amount of Ballistix fans. And now I feel the Blossom fans have shifted over as well. They have won the hearts in every single interview. You have the team running on emotions. And they are going up against, of course, one of the best, if not the best team in the world, Gen.G. But I think the crowd is currently heavily favoring the underdog.
Very much going to agree with you there, as Gen.G been sitting on the kind of sidelines for the most of the day, waiting to see what Ballistix have in their pockets, watching 9 games out of Ballistix in a row so far. And they have a now tough series to be able to handle here as we move on to the best of 7 and in a situation where Gen.G does in fact have that 1 game advantage.
Already saw in the backstage. That was massaging Hooligan's calves the entire time, so he's ready for the carry in this game right now. And I mean, again, this team absolutely runs on emotions here, and they've been playing with that crowd the entire time. They draw a lot of motivation from how the crowd is engaging with everyone here, and the Korean fans are absolutely hyped. I've been actually blown away with how many people have shown up here at the venue and that we just packed this thing day after day and how much they engage with all these players.
Did you see that little move there by Jung-Ha for that moment there, Snitch? It looked like he was ready to take that trophy.
Ballistix are styling, they're ready to fuel this crowd. We have that interesting dynamic to look at where, like you say, they have been on for 9 games in a row. Is that an advantage? Is that going to be a disadvantage? It's an interesting thing to see.
They actually took pictures with the trophy already a bit earlier after the last series. They all stood behind the trophy and reached out to it, and so they want that thing.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to be able to hear that because that is, Hooligan is a guy on that roster that we've been talking about all weekend long. It seems like when the LAN really shows up that something kind of takes over this group, and I feel like Eastern Clash 1 and 2, you look at it, or especially Eastern Clash 1, you look at that and you go, a lot of that I feel like is Hooligan. And though I do think he's a high-impact player here, especially in the last series, he's been able to play it out and clutch it out for the team. I don't think he's the only one. No. Players like Gen.G are standing out heavily for this roster, unlike, again, Hooligan or SC, where we normally see Ballistix really rely on those players.
I mean, for me personally, especially against Gen.G or the MVP Black of old, Gen.G always stands out to me as the one guy that shut down Rich every single step of the way. That's a performance that I'll never forget back then on Dragonshire. So if he steps up to the plate right now and can once again just control Rich when he tries to make his plays, because we've been talking about how Rich is in the spots right now where he's trying to be heavily aggressive with Hanzo, for example, on Volskaya Foundry, but also with his Phoenix play. And if you can get in a position where you punish that, then maybe there's a chance that they not only take him out but gain some momentum.
Snitch, is there anything that you really want to see coming out either in a draft front or a battleground front for either one of these teams where you feel like they have the upper hand over one another?
Well, I think the player I'm really looking at based on this last series is SDE. I do not think of this man as a playmaker. I do not think of this man as a carry of Ballistix. He's normally the well-rounded flex, ready to play that Tychus, ready to play these weird niche heroes if they need them. But this last series, he was dominating on that Thrall. We talked about he doesn't play that Thrall often. It's not really his pick, but his Sunderings were immense in that game too. The clutch Li Ming talent pick at level 20 in game 4. This man is stepping up on this stage. He's got the Eastern Clash magic running through his veins, and I want to see if he can carry Ballistix in this final.
Yeah, that's an amazing point that you bring up, because I feel like we know the Korean teams to be absolutely amazing when it comes to their execution and microplay, but that was one of those moments where we see that level of adaptation on the fly that is very much just a brain decision on how they're going to adjust to the game, and it was a lot of the reason we didn't see ourselves moving on to a game number 5 out of that last series between Tempest and Gen.G. But we have the battlegrounds moving through here. Gen.G taking off Kursalo, Tomb of the Spider Queen taken away from Ballistix, and we're going to Towers of Doom chosen by Gen.G.
I want to quickly come back to the point that Tish was making about STE, because when you looked at the GCWC at the end of 2017, there was always that weird interaction with SC and STE on the hyper carry roles, and back then STE received a lot of criticism from the Korean community because they felt that he did not really perform in that role, but he always wanted the responsibility. I think at this point he has really grown into the role and is now able to shoulder all of that pressure.
Yeah, definitely. As I said, I mean, I didn't think of SDE as one of those great clutch playmaking players, but at least in this tournament, he's stepping up massively. He's looking huge for Ballistix, and I mean, I'm really excited to see if Gen.G let him get his hands on that Thrall, what he can do with it again.
And so I want to, again, kind of bringing it back to what we see when it comes to the battlegrounds. I've been saying this since the very beginning of this tournament. Towers of Doom, Gen.G, we need teams to be pressuring onto it, and then they bamboozle here and are the ones comfortable getting the pick. And why this seems so interesting is Gen.G do not have a victory within standard Korean play or even here at the Eastern Clash whatsoever. When looking at the other side, though, it is a very different tale with a 4-0, nearly undefeated there for Ballistix. So it is bold here, but I can't help but feel like there is a massive game plan here on the side of Gen.G.
I mean, even the fact if you actually win this map right now, you pick the map of your opponent, so say you're breaking the curse here, and then if you take it here, what's Ballistix going to do? That's the worst start you could possibly get into a series. So Gen.G, they feel, of course, incredibly confident that they can pull that off, and they are comfortable enough to pick the map. And let's see what Ballistix can do from a second pick position.
There's been some interesting priority, I feel like, when it comes to both of these teams overall when it comes to the draft. So we actually have the draft ready. Ladies and gentlemen, here, it is your grand finals between Ballistix and Gen.G on Towers of Doom. What I was going to bring up there, Snitch, is the priority between some of the heroes in these teams have been a little bit different, especially as, Thrall over the last series has been kind of that pickup focus, and whereas, Gen.G has been a team that hasn't been too focused on it here. Is there anything else that we seem now knowing in Towers of Doom that we need to be focused on, things like the Dahaka or something of the like?
I mean, I think I'm just a little nervous for Ballistix in general here. They already showed a little few, draft errors, I would say, in the last series. A little bit of a, especially on the last 2 maps, I would say some kind of weak decisions from them. And already we've seen Gen.G adapt to them massively. Last time these 2 teams played, they were very comfortable first banning the Thrall, isolating that as a key part of how Ballistix is going to take games against them, and just removing it from play almost every single map. So it's clear that Gen.G is already ready to adapt, and we see that Ballistix is actually going for something very different and banning out the 2 main DPS heroes available in the pool.
And this is also one, again, a situation in which Gen.G, of course, had a lot more time just observing the play that came out of Ballistix and identify these things. You talked about the Thrall, and that's something that can come up here. But when we talk about, like, that's actually a massive focus on the auto attackers right now, with even Hanzo being banned out.
Hammer is the only one that's really seemed to be left open.
Gen.G are going to take your bluff, man. You want to ban the auto attackers? We'll ban another one, you know? We see 3 main DPS taken out here. We're really squeezing the pool. You wonder if some of these weirder picks are going to come out. The Sergeant Hammer, we've seen the Nazeebo a few times. You know, obviously we've got our Li Ming, you know, we've got our mages available, but a lot of these main auto attackers removed from the drafting pool, and I think that's a very interesting adaptation for this first game.
I mean, outside of that, the first picks here are pretty much what you would expect. It was always around Reyna, Deckard Cain, Diablo, and that's reflected in the early picks again. But this is the moment where especially Gen.G has to decide, okay, what are we going to do here? You mentioned Thrall earlier. Are they willing and comfortable enough to pick that early to take it away from Ballistix, or are they going to risk to hand it over to their opponent?
Find out here as that pick does come through. We see the focus onto the Blaze. It's very interesting in the fact that we did see those 4 DPS bans and not a single DPS in the first 3 picks of this draft. I feel like that does give a small momentum swing here in the 2-3 for Ballistix, as they would like to do so.
I mean, looking at the potential offlaner for them, we talk a lot about Thrall, but again, I come back to Urel. When you have Diablo in the mix already, and we've seen how much especially Gen.G could do with Urel. They paired it with an Uberak a lot. In this case, though, Urel not respected enough. It is that Thrall potentially, or most likely, with Sundering coming in again on the side of Ballistix that they're relying upon.
I mean, this is definitely what I like to see. Ballistix identifying what was working for them in the series before. I'm glad to see this adaptation. If Gen.G leaves the Thrall open, you take it. SDE, again, a massive playmaker on that Thrall before. I'm expecting to see him do it again on Towers of Doom, even though he is against a higher caliber of opponent.
Is there any kind of concern towards a possible fall set as we move a little bit through this draft? Just judging by how many kind of main DPS backliners have been taken off the table. We know the Thrall is going to be a bit more focused on that melee-oriented playstyle, and I feel like that global might be a tool that Gen.G might be able to rely on in this composition. Again, based on the fact that it's just kind of so much focus on the backline, I feel like it's going to see, again, more melee here for Ballistix.
The thing that makes me hesitant for this foul set is the fact that they did leave the Dehaka open. If they are going to try and play that global style, they do still have Jeongha's Dehaka ready in the back pocket if they feel like it is. They are getting pressured on that global front. I like the Anubarak ban, a very popular tank for these Korean teams in this tournament. You have to wonder if Gen.G have some special DPS they want to pull out, or even if Ballistix do. Like I said, or like you said, there's so many DPS bans going on, and neither team is locked in a single ranged hero. So you have to wonder if they both have some big bluff game being played here.
Yeah.
I still like a lot that they banned out Urel, Gen.G that is, because I already considered that they might take Urel over Thrall, but there is so much triple melee going on here that if you allow Urel on the other side, then all of a sudden you have pretty much a front line that is nearly impossible to break through. Li Ming with the DPS, you just pointed it out, is the first one to come in here. And when it comes to the tanks, then you have Garrosh available, but Muradin for engagers and also the Stormbolt setups to put Blaze into a good spot, and to have the follow-up with Li Ming is a great choice here for Gen.G again.
I mean, I'm looking at this 5th slot and I'm thinking scary rich pick. We don't know what he's going to be on yet. We know he doesn't like to play the Li Ming, but there's so many options for him here. He has that Sergeant Hammer, he has that Zeratul, SC falling back to his standard Greymane. You know, not one of the top DPS right now, and there is the Sergeant Hammer. I really like it in this draft. It's very, very hard for them to get onto with Ballistix. Diablo, not a great matchup into the Hammer. Rich is probably going to end up, at least once this game, predicting that Sundering and getting an unstoppable cleanse on it. I think the Hammer is going to do a lot of work here, and it's going to be very, very hard for Ballistix to break through it.
Yeah, originally when I kind of posed that idea with so much bans going into the backline range, that false out would actually be in the hands of Gen.G, knowing that Ballistix had to be so melee focused and deal with that Dehaka into the offlane. But I feel like a lot better now, considering it kind of early on I pointed out, I was like, well, Sergeant Hammer's the only one up, and then making it that far through, even though there are that many melees, Hammer is equally as effective in a very different way against that many. So Gen.G got to feel confident with that last slot.
It feels like Ballistix had to see this coming, right? With everything that was banned out there, I don't think that Hammer comes really as a surprise to them. So it feels that from their perspective, they're looking at this and they're saying, okay, we expected this and we believe that our draft can handle it.
Yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it could be that kind of out that far, right? Again, based on such weird and kind of unique targeting towards those backline DPS here. But overall, when looking at these compositions, is there anything that we want to see in the earlier stages of the game, mid-game? Well, I mean, is there any holes, I guess, from either side?
I mean, I think we're mainly looking at Jeongha here to try and salvage this situation. This Hammer's going to have so much space to just get free poke on these towers, especially with the Li Ming by her side. I mean, you can get so much siege done on these walls and so much chip damage on these structures straight away. That's no doubt going to propel Gen.G to an experienced lead. We're going to have to be looking for Jeongha to find the perfect moment to pull that trigger on the Brush Stalker, find these great dig engages, and capitalize on, you know, the aggressive positioning from Gen.G from there.
You don't believe in Thrall getting a flank here? I mean, you talked about the Unstoppable already, but you don't think that with Sundering he can try and play with vision? We've seen Rich do that actually in the game on Infernal Shrines earlier a lot, but you don't think that there's any chance that he can get that flank against him?
I think it's definitely possible. I'm more thinking about the early game here when I talk about the aggressive standing from Gen.G. Maybe from 10 onwards we can look at SDE, make those miracle plays again, you know, channel the War Chief and get those Sunders down. I'm definitely excited to see if he can pull it off because he's already looked good, and maybe he can pull it off again.
Yeah, we're about to find out if they have the tools to pull it off once more. Ladies and gentlemen, here we are getting into Game 1 on Towers of Doom between Gen.G and Ballistix for the Eastern Clash.
Towers of Doom, ladies and gentlemen, as we are heading into the grand final between Gen.G and Ballistix. And over to the left side of the map, we have Gen.G with Sake on Deckard Kane, Reset on Li Ming, Rich on Sergeant Hammer, Kyoja on Blaze, and Tis on the front line with Muradin.
And in the red, it is Ballistix looking to earn that 3-time championship with Malfurion played by Magi, SDE on Thrall, Jeongha playing that Dahaka, Hooligan on Diablo, and last up here we have SC on Greymane.
The crowd already fairly behind. But the amazing thing about the crowd here in Korea is that they've always been chanting for both sides the entire tournament. There's an insane atmosphere here in the stadium, and at this point we're seeing the teams collide in the mid lane.
Bit of a wave clear advantage, at least for that first collision for Gen.G. Hooligan, though, maybe one in threat when it comes to the rotation. Nice use there to be able to hit the snare, but Gen.G is the ones able to pull ahead, and that is a pretty significant advantage purely based on the fact that Hammer is not typically your 1-4 leader that you normally see. It's a 1-1-3 where she's just posted up and heavily protected.
And we talked a lot about Hooligan already. He's really the one that thrives on all of that momentum and the energy that the crowd provides. And we have to look towards him. A very emotional player, and he's going to try and set these plays up for his team. Also, when it comes to talent, Shanno's clarity, we've seen it a few times on Malfurion as an adjustment, and this is the case in this game as well. The perfect storm again for Muradin on the other side, and ambush for Sergeant Hammer, as Rich is going to try and get that chip damage against those structures.
Keep in mind that Ballistix has that top lane pressure really, really heavy as both these sappers are started, which that was what I was going to highlight. It leads to a very easy brush talk opportunity for Jeongha. He did end up committing to it very early. Great bait there by Rich, kind of feigning interest within that rotation. That's going to allow for a lot of damage there for Kyoja on that top lane. And as long as none of the sappers really get too much damage in, Gen.G has very calculated and very controlled kind of had an approach here to the early game.
And of course, with Sergeant Hammer taken in the last slot, this was a pick that Ballistix definitely had to see coming. So right now, they feel that with this draft, they have tools that they can use to take Hammer down and to make sure that Rich doesn't get too much momentum for the team. But Gen.G has looked nearly perfect throughout the tournament. They had a couple of games where they really brawled with opponents, but they didn't drop a single map yet, trying to pull the Dignitas performance here that we had the European team at the Western Clash.
The top lane here of this match has been such an interesting approach, even though we haven't given any interest to it. Blaze has never pushed into the Dahaka whatsoever, constantly letting him actually take the lane advantage. And I can't help but wonder, you know, if that's going to be a moment where Gen.G finds a way to abuse that information in the later stages. But for now, Ballistix doing their best to kind of thwart the efforts, while they are again gaining a lot of control towards that northern lane.
Ballistix is really heavily posed in the middle between the bot lane and the mid lane here, trying to also play with vision and make sure that Gen.G doesn't always know where exactly Diablo is, because he's going to be the one looking for an engage.
Oh my, that was beautiful.
What a great escape here by SC. Kyoja already charging up with the jet propulsion. The kill attempt here, if he hits the stun and Reset follows it up, then Greymane is in trouble. But what a great play here to escape and juke all of it.
Yeah, if that was, you know, Reset just a pixel to the left, I don't think that escape actually ends up happening. Kyoja tried to get that channel. It's actually going to get interrupted. Or actually, no, it did not get interrupted. Gets the shots on top there. SC is looking to pick up the top right here. And it's a 4 versus 3 down below. Ballistix down a man for this bottom altar.
And you gotta love the Dignitas spray. Getting Dignitas spray out here immediately. Also SDE with the completion here on the Echo of Elements has of course now the poke available to him. As we are seeing the team still way down through the bot lane for that additional altar. And this is really where the global can make all the difference if we're having that brush stalker attempt. But first of all, we're seeing Diablo make the engage on the Sergeant Hammer. Rich is rooted and barely gets out as Jong-Ha burrows in and creates more space so that Greymane can start the channel.
And this is going to allow Ballistix to be able to pick up 4 more shots and gain an advantage when looking at the core HP here. But experience pretty much dead even for the two teams. Neither one really eking too far ahead over one another, but I already am in awe at the amount of confidence we see with Rich on that Sergeant Hammer. That was, again, a disadvantage fight for him, and he's just like, I'm not moving siege mode. I am just going to stay here, put out as much damage as possible. Able to barely escape there that time, but as we kind of scale upward, I wonder if that's still going to be a surviving Rich. Hold up, Jet Propulsion end up landing there. Hooligan not able to kite away, ends up flipping the overpower in a bad spot. Tis throws down the Stormbolt, and they get the pick there. Hooligan ends up going down, and Gen.G find first blood.
Beautiful Stormbolt there from Tis, securing the kill, making sure that there's no chance for him to move out. And we have another one as Muradin is able to take down Malfurion. Gen.G with the double kill here around level 8 in the game. And that sets Ballistix even farther back since Rich can now, without any pressure on him, siege up in the bot lane and drop their front.
Yeah, that's a really big setback here for Ballistix just because of, as you said, Rich's ability to get that siege in the downtime. It's just taking... Sergeant Hammer is a hero we don't know for its early game aggression, but she very much is one of the best early game punishers when you make that slight mistake. Kind of like old Illidan used to be. He can dodge the turrets, get the siege up for no reason. You get one kill, he gets a mile off of it, and that is what we see Rich doing there with the Sergeant Hammer. Sappers going to be at least attempted here once more. You see Ballistix questioning if they have the opportunity to get the invade, but at least for now they're going to back out here. 20 seconds until those top 2 altars up.
Yeah, Tis is anchoring the play, and there's no way for Ballistix to really engage into it. They're not too far behind in experience yet, but of course Gen.G is angling towards level 10 at this point. With the altars activating in another 5 seconds, we're going to very likely see an even trade when it comes to that second objective phase, but from then on it's all about the level 10 and what Gen.G can do with it.
It's likely going to be a lot of pressure towards that southern lane, I feel like, here. As you said, it's going to be the dead even swap there. Purely with the 10 advantage. It's not a big enough advantage for you to really, kind of get the 5-man commitment and be like, whoa, we're taking this part of the battleground. But, again, poking and prodding with the Sergeant Hammer is a realistic option. As a nice Stormbolt over the wall, will the scroll ceiling connect? Not quite there.
Great attempt though, really putting the pressure onto Magi again, and of course Malfurion plays have become a lot more difficult, especially since the lack of Ice Block on level 13. Still a bit away from that, but even in that late game, or especially in that later stages of the match, we're gonna have Malfurion being a prime target for Gen.G. Now level 10 abilities are definitely something where the entire dynamic might flip a little bit since Ballistix has better tools to engage onto Sergeant Hammer or any hero that they can isolate. We've seen the impact that we had with Thrall for that squad, but can they pull it off again?
One deviation that we do have when looking at the heroics in this game to buy a little bit more peel, I feel like, for Rich on that Sergeant Hammer has got to be with the Lornado. With the Sundering coming in from SDE, I don't know if it's realistic for a Stay a While and Listen to really kind of be that high-impact play, likely going to get interrupted and just lead to a dead Decker Kane. So I like this. Still providing the peel, but being more realistic about the circumstances of this battle.
John there with an interesting burrow into the mid lane. They expected a fight and were hoping to get an engage, but that kind of backfired on them, and he had to immediately rotate up to the top. So that's a cooldown burned, at least for now, but definitely shows again that Ballistix is looking for these opportunities, especially now that they have level 10.
As you saw Rich using a clutch self-cleanse there. If that's a fraction of a second too late in the later stages, might be a dead Rich, but that's part of the reason Rich is one of the best players in the world. Hold up, though. Stormbolt will land, forcing the Nature's Cure there from Magi. Hooligan unable to find a flip. Gonna get zoned out by that scroll ceiling. He's in a tough position. Kyoja whiffs there when it comes to that jet propulsion. The Stormbolt will end up connecting. Sundering, splitting all of Gen.G. Rich trying to kite away, ends up throwing down the thrusters there, but look at that. Hooligan flipping it over and finding the kill.
The lightning breath here. They want to go for the second, and Rich is about to fall. Down he goes as we have a second kill provided by Greymane. Ballistix definitely not playing the shy game, but all of a sudden Hooligan himself in trouble, and he falls as Muradin moves in, but the counter kill Li Ming is down, and they're not stopping at that. Oh! They're going for the dwarf, and they get him. Tis falls, and that's a quad kill.
Tis trying to get the dwarf toss away and lands right into an entangling root, prepping another kill here. Ballistix starting out with massive fireworks here, and after picking up 2 more altars, a colossal lead when looking at core HP.
And I have to call something else out here. You talked about him already a bit earlier and how he provided those 2 kills. Tis on Muradin. That monster just completed his quest 7.5 minutes into the game. That is insane. For Muradin to get the Stormball quest after 7.5 minutes, that is just brutal. And he now gets that cooldown reduction, he gets the pierce, and him having that this early on makes it incredibly dangerous for Ballistix.
Yeah, it's going to prep up a lot of those kills in the later stages, being able to have that kind of pierce here. Ballistix, though, has that significant HP when looking at the core, and that's something that they are probably going to have to depend on as this game moves through, because I can't help but feel like eventually it's going to hit a threshold where we see Sergeant Hammer get the conversion over that bottom bell tower, and when that happens, it is a far more oppressive composition in favor of Gen.G than it is Ballistix. Yes, they have the Dahaka, but that has nothing to do with the 1-1-3 of a Sergeant Hammer holding that bottom bell tower.
Bot lane control and potential snowball on the side of Gen.G is definitely something for Ballistix to worry about, but I really love how we once again saw Hooligans set up these kills at that bot lane. And it shows that they have the abilities to get these kills here. So Ballistix definitely not just sitting back and allowing Gen.G to run the show. They are angling 4 kills the entire time. Hooligan already waiting for it once more and thinking about diving in deep to help his team secure another kill.
20 seconds here on this altar with no commitment shown from the Blaze there. Kyocha not making the transition down quite yet. But this is going to be, I feel, very much a breaking point for either one of these teams, because the momentum of experience is going to heavily break out after the skirmish. Break clear from SC to be able to get a little bit of experience advantage throughout mid. And Gen.G move up.
Is, by the way, only at 35 stacks on his soul, so he's definitely not as hit point heavy as he would like to be. Him falling earlier in the fight at the bottom left definitely hurt the team a bit, and right now he has to be very, very careful when he flips the switch here. Outside of that, Dehaka still pushing out the top lane. They're really trying to get the maximum value out of that global hero.
Gen.G still have such an effective zone out here without the fact that there we see the brush talk actually coming in. Jungha will end up landing the drag. He's going to get knocked back there by the Rich knockback, actually.
SC under pressure as Tist is jumping straight on him and trying to push him back here. Healing Static helping him, of course, too. There's so much interrupt potential. SC in particular, with his Echo of Elements, can just keep poking with the lightning, but they decide to move back for now. Not really fighting the engage, and they're not able to break through the defense that Gen.G has set up around Hammer.
I think it's a very smart call for Ballistix, but only because they have been so successful with those early skirmishes and gaining so much on the XP of the core over Gen.G. But I feel like at some point they've got to be comfortable, willing to address this full 5-on-5 at the same talent tier. And you know, Sergeant Hammer is not a hero, again, that I feel like I look at and I go, I'm afraid of her 1 through 9. It's that definitely the later stages and the oppression she can supply there. So Ballistix, though, I do understand the decision-making there to not want to risk that at that point in time. I don't think they have very many of those kind of opportunities left before Gen.G end up getting a win.
I mean, it really feels that they're also playing a lot around the hit point pool of Diablo, what I mentioned a bit earlier, that they really don't want to engage in a fight where he doesn't have the full stacks of souls, at least close to that. Tist again with the Stormbolts here, just hammering them in. He currently sits at 33 stacks on the quest. Just to keep you guys updated with Diablo, he's sitting at 47 souls.
And though it doesn't cost anything there, that's the second uncharacteristic missed jet propulsion from Kyocha in an interesting direction. It might be something that, again, we got to keep our eyes on as we move through this game. It's not something that we typically say about Kyocha. His Blaze is very, very comfortable for him. Hooligan with the 16 talent tier, though, questioning if he can get the invade. Rich constantly getting the knockback, not allowing that to happen here. And now, this is, again, one of those kind of tough and interesting moments. Will Ballistix end up forfeiting more and just try and stall this game out, or are they going to finally answer to the fort kind of established by Gen.G with Rich?
I mean, this is the moment. You have both teams at level 16, and there's a triple altar phase coming up. Thunderstorm on Thrall allows for a lot of poke damage and also the slows to come in, but you can already tell that Tist is really thinking about survivability here on the other side, going into Stone Form on his talent right now, trying to deal with that battle that he has to play, not only against Diablo, but also against the 16 talent that has just been taken by Greymane. The extra damage on the other attacks with the percentage damage.
Hooligan gets a flip onto Sake, putting him in a bad spot, but Rich is in a badder spot. He ends up throwing out the BFG, using the Tornado to be able to get the peel, but the Sundering goes on to Rich, and look at him, he's able to hold alive a little bit longer, but go for the throw, and he finds it there. Ballistix get the first pick, but it's not over yet.
Yeah, Thrall goes down as Li Ming gets the reset, and there was a fantastic move. Hooligan goes down as well, and Gen.G is just moving in and ripping Ballistix apart after the entire fight started with a kill against Hammer. Down goes Greymane, and that's the triple kill.
The synergy there by everybody coordinated, getting into the bunker, distributing out all those flamethrowers along with the Li Ming damage was enough to turn the tide. And now Magi, no ice block, even an option there. No way he's going to be able to make it out. It's only a matter of time. Reset, no mana, no problem. Magi going down here, and Gen.G now gaining that control that I was so concerned of throughout this game. It is likely to get this bottom bell tower conversion, and then they're going to have to answer to the Hammer.
In the fight, it really was all on Hammer, and the problem is they really clustered so hard to make that kill happen, and they blew everything they had to dominate Rich in that fight. But then Deckard Cain just came around, Stroll comes through, and all of a sudden they're locked in place. They're already low in HP, and as you said, the bunker was also perfectly used here on the side of Gen.G to make sure that no one else fell. We had Li Ming getting the first kill, the resets are coming in, the damage comes out, and Tist is just the beast in these situations. He dives in deep, gets the Storm Bolts, hits them hard, has by now also a significant number of stacks on his Perfect Storm, and Ballistix loses 4 in the process. Well, it looked like a good start into the team fight. Great play and great turnaround again by Gen.G.
And I can't help but feel like all that clumping and kind of punishment that we see coming to light now all started with those first 4 bans we got into the draft, seeing so much emphasis into the backlines and leaving to this melee-centric composition against that last pick Hammer for Gen.G. Ballistix is able to actually sneak in this boss. Very cleverly done there.
That was a really cool move by them, especially with the vision that they had on Hammer down to the bot lane. They made that snap choice to go for the boss. And if you look at the objective, Gen.G is still behind. It's really the bot lane control and also their ability to take a lead in experience that is the biggest threat to Ballistix. But at least with 20 points on the core, Ballistix has some time available.
They do have time. But Gen.G is a team that usually seems to take what we know. My goodness, he's going to get flipped over the wall at death along with the Sundering Tist with that Stone Skin, though. Will end up surviving here. Tornado just kind of disturbing it a little bit there. Li Ming starting the channel, and this will, in fact, be 5 shots headed back to Ballistix. Now setting them at 15 as those sappers being escorted down below by Gen.G, but it's going to come at the cost there of that top belt fort.
Yeah, it was definitely a great attempt here to take Muradin down, but once Muradin pops Avatar and gets the stone form in, he just survives long enough to make his way out here. They couldn't lock him into that CC chain long enough to prevent the jump. Another couple of shots are being fired here through the mercenaries, and now we're having both teams on the same amount of points on the core, both sitting on 12, but at least at the top lane.
Yeah.
The bell tower fell, and now both of the teams are looking towards level 20 when we're talking about the next altars coming up. So this is still a game where Ballistix is able to turn it around if they find a good fight.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a silver lining that Ballistix was able to convert that top half of the battleground in their favor. It's going to allow them at least to maybe, you know, if things get a little bit awkward in the later stages, maybe get a sapper split push and demand some kind of response from Blaze. But it is still by no means nearly as profitable as what we expect out of the bottom lane. Not only because you have double the sappers, but also because the rotation to be able to get the clear is just a little bit easier there. And hold off here for Gen.G, though. It's going to be a 4 versus 3. Flip over onto Tist along with the Lightning Breath. Tornado already used Youngha coming in. Will he hit the Drac? He does, but it's only onto Tist.
Yeah, I'm not sure if Tist is really the target here. Tranquility also being popped by Magi in the backline. They're really trying to commit to that conversion at the bottom. Keep in mind that Blaze is top lane, so they really feel that this 5 versus 4 is where they have to make a stand. But Hammer alone is already pushing them back, especially since without a minion wave, that bell tower is just shelling away.
I can definitely say that that was a confusing moment when it comes to communication and play there from Ballistix there. The fact that you see the Tranquility popped in a situation where it's a blatant 5 versus 4, but you aren't comfortable moving in, it just felt like somebody was saying, we're going, and the other one's like, we are definitely backing out. Either way, sets Ballistix back a little bit here as those altars are up, and it is again a 50-50 trade. but it comes at a not so 50-50 trade in the fact that the bell tower control here is still favoring that of Gen.G.
And I'm not gonna lie, this rewind on Mirrodin just absolutely terrifies me when it's in the hands of Kiss. He's already a tough target to take down, but even in those fights, if he gets a double Stormbolt off, that is so terrifying. Look at that follow-up from Li Ming. Absolutely perfect player. The Stormbolt goes in, the stun is there. Li Ming with the reset, the second one coming through as Greymane falls. Here's number 3. It is an absolute sale on Ballistic players right now. Everybody dying on their side with the exception of Malfurion and Thrall.
There has to be a shout out there to the repulsion value that we got from Reset over that last skirmish. They got the first kill there onto the Dahaka, and SE trying to get the escape there on the Greymane. One wave of force launching him into the backlines of Gen.G, setting up for the second kill. And it feels like that is now a massive swing here for Gen.G to find an opportunity to get a win condition. The denial of the boss earlier is something that Ballistix is very thankful of this point in time, because it's not going to be the double sapper boss, but it is so very close here, Kaldor. Because if all these sappers make it in, that's 1 HP left.
I'm liking the play at the top lane, where we currently see Diablo anchoring the attempt to get the camp, and also that bell tower is under heavy pressure. But as you said, the bot lane, that's what we're really most concerned, because this is where now the mercenaries are starting to push through. And if those 3 are hitting home, then any of these altars can end it. To be quite fair with you, at this point already, if you grab one of those 2, it's over.
Will they be able to make it through here? It is a very tough situation for Ballistix.
Doesn't even matter.
They have to move top down. I mean, it's going to be essentially a all-in play here. And Ballistix is making the rotation. As you see, Hooligan, SC, and Moggy making the transition. Gen.G is going to try and bully off while somebody starts the channel. Reset now making his way down. Jungha actually brush talk. He will be able to get that interrupt. So this is a moment, but it's a tough one here as Gen.G goes in.
They know they have to fight, and Ballistix is going immediately for it. This is the moment where you have to win the team fight. One altar over to the opponent, and you are down. And look at Jungha. He falls as we see there. Kill secured by Mirrodin once again. It's Tis getting it, and here come the resets. Li Ming with a kill against Diablo. No salts for him and no chance as well. SDE is on the run.
Ooh.
He's barely escaping, but Li Ming falls, and SC is unleashed, taking down Li Ming, nearly getting the second kill, but he falls, and so does Malfurion.
Doing his very best to be able to fight back there, but it is not enough there. With that channel, Gen.G going to take game number 1 here on Towers of Doom over Ballistix.
Gen.G takes the game and takes the lead, the 2-0 in the series now, with that winner's bracket advantage that they have heading into the grand final. But Ballistix definitely showing some teeth here, fighting, coming out, getting a few kills, gaining some momentum, up to the moment when they lose a big fight, and that hammer is able to shift the momentum over to the blue team.